to the Board of Commissioners meeting for December 17th, 2015. And we're glad you're with us. Tonight, we're going to have before we call our meeting to order, we're going to have the invocation and the pledge presented. The invocation will be presented by Rabbi Zalman Sheraton. Did I get that right, Rabbi? Thank you. From Shabbat Jewish Center in West Cobb. We're glad you're with us. And it'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance presented by firefighter Chance Champion, who has been with Cobb Fire since March of 2015. A rookie. Where is he? Good. Come on up. Come on up. If you don't know the words, there's some guys here from the PD that can help you out. And he's assigned to Fire Station 30. Those who wish to do so, please rise for the invocation and pledge.
God in heaven, Master of the universe, we stand here before you in prayer. Look favorably upon the honorable members of this governing body of Cobb County. Bless these distinguished individuals who have been chosen to enact laws and decisions for all the citizens of our county. Let us recognize that this privileged position allows us to perform one of the 7 Noahide laws given to us by God at the dawn of civilization. At mankind's beginning, and again at Mount Sinai, you issued forth 7 universal commandments for all humanity to heed, which came to be known as the 7 Noahide laws. The last of those precepts is that every society legislate for itself a system of law, order, and social justice based on the recognition and acknowledgement of you, Almighty God, as the sovereign ruler of all men and of all nations. We, the citizens of this blessed country, the United States of America, proudly proclaim this recognition and affirm our commitment to justice in our Pledge of Allegiance when we describe our union as one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. Almighty God, grant those assembled here the ability to conduct their deliberations accordingly and to enact laws while being aware of your presence. Allow them to debate their differences vigorously, but to remember foremost that to legislate for the common good of the people is not only a civic privilege, but also a divinely mandated responsibility. Recently, people around the world have concluded celebrating the holiday of Hanukkah, the Festival of Lights. Light teaches us some very important lessons. The nature of light is that it is always victorious over darkness. It never fails to defeat the darkness. This gives us a great deal of hope and a great deal of confidence. It offers us the certainty that goodness and kindness will ultimately prevail over darkness and falsehood. In these times, when the world is faced with tremendous forces of darkness and evil, we are reminded that the forces of light, goodness, and kindness will ultimately prevail. Almighty God, grant those assembled here wisdom, understanding, and a spirit of counsel. Wisdom to turn adversity into opportunity, to transform the challenges of today into the seeds from which will sprout the successes of tomorrow. Understanding to properly direct the resources of government according to the needs of all citizens, and counsel to unite us all in working for a better Cobb County. May he who makes peace in his heavens, may he make peace for us and for all mankind, and let us say, Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Rabbi. Appreciate you being with us tonight. Firefighter Champion, welcome to the department. Thank you for being here. We'll now call this meeting officially to order, and we begin with tab 1, presentations. We have one tonight. Commissioner Burrow.
Good evening, everyone. It is an honor to present a couple of checks tonight, but I'd first like to ask the Army Field Band concert team to come up, our sponsors that are here, and our committee, our co-chair, Nancy Collier, and any members from the Cobb Wind Symphony that are here tonight. And of course, Kathy Wells and Richard and Patricia Would y'all come up? As most of you know, we were honored to have the U.S. Army Field Band and Soldiers Chorus here on Veterans Day for a concert at the Lassiter Concert Hall. It was an outstanding performance. I've never been to a concert any greater. But we started publicizing it and fundraising to get them here back in July last year or this year, and we got an overwhelming response for sponsorships to help fund the program, but also an overwhelming response with sold out free tickets that registered with the self-addressed envelope. We didn't even have to put it online. So we had a little bit of money left over, so we kind of thought, we got together and thought of two special groups that we thought would benefit from this. One being, of course, the Skip Wells Foundation, and seeing that it was the U.S. Army Field Band. Skip was a band member at Sprayberry and also Navy Junior ROTC. And he graduated in 2012, and I'm sure you all know what happened in July, and we lost Skip. But we heard last night, or late yesterday, that he will be awarded the Purple Heart. Thank you. So, and then the other check is for the Cobb Wind Symphony. They have all of their concerts at Lassiter, and it's comprised of adults in the Cobb, adults in the Cobb area and Atlanta area. Andrew Cole, Nancy Collier, who was my co-chair, are part of the Cobb Wind Symphony. And so I'm going to let you introduce the Cobb Wind Symphony members, and I'll introduce the committee folks and sponsors.
Andrew Cole is the president of the Cobb Wind Symphony this year, and Fred Norton.
Nancy, use the mic as a
okay,
mic
sorry.
instead of a pointer.
Fred Norton is in the clarinet section with the Cobb Wind Symphony, saxophone section with the Cobb Wind Symphony, and Krista Pezhold is a trombone player, and Jackie Genevario is my cohort next to me. I play bassoon, Jackie plays bass clarinet. So we have about 110 members, and a lot of Cobb County band directors are in the group. And our next concert will be in March, February 20th. And our concerts are all free. This is our gift to Cobb County, so we hope that you'll be able to attend. All of our concerts are at the Lassiter Concert Hall, and it's a great event.
And they'll all be published in my newsletter too, so look for that in the March timeframe. I'm sure these two don't need an introduction. Pam and Ron Yonker, very active in the community with our military affairs and everything. They were very instrumental on the committee as well. And Roy Lance needs no introduction. He is Marine and like Skip, and was on the committee and helped us get the word out to all the American Legions and veterans offices to get the tickets. So, and last but not least, special lady here. This woman is amazing. This is Kathy Wells, Skip's mom. And this is Skip's grandparents, Patricia and Richard. And we are just honored to have you here tonight. God bless you. We're so excited about the Purple Heart. I think that's a great honor. Okay, I'm going to give out some checks, some dummy checks. The first one goes to Kathy, and this is a scholarship for $500 that will go to the Sprayberry band student. Right. Okay. And this is for the Cobb Wind Symphony for $500 too. So
Thank you all. That'll take us to tab 2, public comment. Counselor?
Yes, you have 6 speakers signed up for the first portion of the meeting, and the first speaker is Roberta Conti, or Kubi. I can't really
Roberta
read it.
Cook.
Cook. Okay, sorry. That's my reading skills. So if you could come forward.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Roberta Cook. I live in Mableton, Georgia. And I've been a voter here in Cobb County for almost 20 years. And on November 4th, 2008, I cast a vote for a $40 million park bond for the Cobb County to buy land for parks. 65% of the voters also checked that box on the ballot to have a $40 million park bond issued. So with the majority vote, that resolution passed, and we've been looking for that $40 million ever since. 7 years has gone by. Back when the bond was passed, it wasn't issued. The excuse that we got was that the economy went bad. Well, as you know, the economy has changed, and now we're still waiting for that park bond to be issued. So I would like the board to remedy this situation, because Cobb County is now spending money on bonds that were not approved by the voters, and I think one that is approved should get your immediate attention. So we are getting organized now. The citizens are. As you can see, I'm wearing a Cobb Parks Coalition badge, and we've got a website. It's lovecobbparks.com. So if anybody wants to get an update on the Parks Bond, we're online as well. So I hope you all please consider, 65% of the voters, that's a lot of people. This is a government by the people, for the people. You're our elected representatives. There's expectations there, to honor the voters. So please issue our $40 million park bond. Thank you.
The next speaker is Stephen Bell. If you come forward, please.
I have not been in Cobb County for 20 years, but I thank you for the opportunity to speak. I moved to Cobb County about 1.5 years ago. We live in Mableton. First 30 years of my life, I lived in Camden, New Jersey, in a row home. And then for the next 40 years, I had the chance to live at Berry College, on the campus of the college, 28,000 acres. And got a chance to see the difference between living in a row home and living at Berry College. And I plan to spend the next 30 years living in Mableton, Georgia. And I come to you really as a science educator and a grandfather. We went to the East Cobb Park on Roswell Avenue last year for a picnic, and there was no place to park. The place was packed. The park itself was packed, and after about 20 minutes of just driving around, we finally found a place to park. And it seems to me that if we're going to have parks, we need enough of them and we need access to them. So I hope that you will support Parks Coalition and give us the parks that the voters would like. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The next speaker is Derek Brown. If you could come forward, please.
Good evening, Chairman. My name is Derek Brown, and I'm a husband, father, 20-year resident of Cobb. I live in District 1 and the city of Marietta limits. I'm also a registered Georgia mediator, and tonight I'm here as part of a concerned group of citizens who would like to propose a citizen review board, an independent citizen review board for Cobb County law enforcement. I emailed that proposal to you this morning, and brought hard copies tonight. We'd also like to request the opportunity for dialogue, civil discourse around some of the proposal's key components. And the first of those key components is that this board be independent and be granted the authority to conduct reviews, open reviews, and to report those findings to the public. We'd also like for that board to have the independence and the transparency to advise policy in key ways. A specific example I'll give, I've worked on a project in the last 2 weeks where I was able to review all complaints with the Chicago Police Department from 2010 to present, and simple analysis revealed several complaints against the officer that is recently indicted for the murder of Laquan McDonald. It was very easy to see through analysis that the number of complaints for excessive force called to question that officer's training and some level of intervention that could be provided if there's an external body that takes a look at those things and brings them to light. This is a matter near and dear to my heart as a longtime resident here, as father of a 2-year-old daughter who I plan to raise in Cobb County, and I'd like the opportunity to, of course, express these views, but also to engage you in honest civil discourse around how something like this can be brought to light, what it would take. And we're willing to work arduously towards that end if given the opportunity. As I close, I recognize that what we're proposing is going to meet with some resistance, and one key item of resistance might be that the board might not be composed of law enforcement officials. And I've had the opportunity, both as member and observer, to be part of school boards where most of the members of the school board were not educators. I've witnessed corporate boards where most of the members are not CEOs. I've witnessed ethics commissions where most of the members are not elected officials. What allows these boards, though, to effectively make decisions and provide sound governance is a diverse wealth of experiences, knowledge, training, and most of all, the humility to say that I know what I don't know. I'm not going to be an expert in areas where I may not be the expert. That gives me the humility to always seek civil discourse. One key thing about civil discourse is it allows you and I, even if we have differing points, to at some point recognize that we're both part of the same circle, and that circle might be much more important than our differing points. And that's how we get together and work towards the same end. As I close, I'd like to recognize all members of our group who are here in attendance tonight, just so you can see we're very, very committed to this matter. If y'all would stand. Now, thank you for your attention. I'll yield the balance of my time. Can I pass this to you?
Give it to Brad, he'll take care of it. Thank you, sir.
The next speaker is Sally Riddle. If you come forward, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Sally Riddle, a resident of District 4, and first want to express my support for the Police Citizen Review Board for Cobb County. But want to make it clear that I and many of us who are here in support today do not see a Citizen Review Board as anti-police, which often seems to be the perception, but rather as supportive of improving community relations with the police department. Several of us attended the meeting of the CRB for the City of Atlanta last week, which, by the way, are always open to the public to attend, and saw how this can actually work in support of good police work. One of the cases that was discussed was actually a shooting resulting in the death of the suspect. And the CRB sustained the shooting as a good shoot following the investigation by their staff. In many cases, the CRB is actually supporting good policing and see that as one of their mandates. I know that some of you feel that we have a wonderful police department and do not need a CRB. However, that's not the perception within a significant portion of our community, and including many outside the county. We want people to be able to travel to the Braves games and other community activities and feel that regardless of race or gender, that they do not need to fear interactions with our police. That is not the case today. And as we all know, perception actually is reality until that perception is changed. Shifting gears slightly, I do want to commend Commission Chairman Lee for requesting a review of the Cobb County Police Department policies and procedures. However, as someone who has managed major projects in my past corporate life and also worked with community outreach activities in the past, I do have some concerns with the proposal as it is written and hope you will amend it to increase the probability of a quality evaluation. One concern is that the first step is being proposed with internal staff only. Given the recent policing issues not only here but all over the country, the results of an initial review to prioritize the areas for further review and determination of who should be involved in the more in-depth review of the department are unlikely to be fully trusted if it is done only by internal county employees. Why not form a committee of internal and external individuals up front? Members of key community organizations concerned about the policies and procedures of our police department have already been meeting with the department leadership on issues like racial bias, the 21st Century Policing Task Force report, and staff recruitment and training, as well as other issues. Why not formalize those interactions right now? This includes the Cobb County chapters of the NAACP, the Southern Christian Leadership Council, and the Georgia Community Coalition, among others. Add some representation from defense attorneys from the County Bar Association, someone from the department's internal affairs group who should have an understanding of current complaint trends, and other community members. We have community members who are retired leaders of police departments and retired police investigators who can also provide valuable insights without being a part of or influenced by the current department culture. I'm sure many would welcome the opportunity to be a part of this process. In addition, I and others I have spoken with have concerns about the proposed timeline for this initial review step, particularly with the holidays being upon us. While I think all of us would like a speedy process of review, we also need to make sure it's a quality process. So extending the timeline instead of reporting by the end of January may be a viable way of increasing the quality of the work. So please make sure there's civilian input into the selection of the organizations and individuals who will be involved in the full review of recommended items, again to increase the trust and transparency in the process, and consider extending the timeline for the process. While the idea of the review is wonderful and very needed as a step forward in increasing community trust, it also needs to be done in a way that will not further erode that trust in the results of the review. Thanks for your consideration.
Thank you, ma'am.
The next speaker is Paxton Riddle. If you come forward, please. Paxton Riddle.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for letting us come and present to you this evening. My name is Pax Riddle. I reside in District 4. I'm a U.S. Army veteran who commanded a bomb disposal unit where we trained police departments throughout Tennessee. And I also have a graduate degree in public administration and several years of experience in human resources and management training and development. As part of this presentation that we're doing this evening on the Citizen Review Board, I'd like to provide some information that I've gleaned about cutting-edge police training many of us would like to see implemented here in Cobb. Much of this information, by the way, comes from the Police Executive Forum, who point out that current police training is not providing officers state-of-the-art techniques to minimize the use of force. A national study shows that while police officers get more than 100 hours of firearms and defensive tactics, they receive only 8 hours in de-escalation tactics and 8 hours in crisis intervention. We'd also like to see the CCPD adopt the Georgia Chiefs of Police model policy on bias-based profiling. Minimizing use of force not only changes in policy, requires changes in policy and training, but in police culture. meaning the command structure has to buy in and enforce these particular rules. Some of the officer-involved shootings around the country recently that have been most controversial seem to reflect training that has officers thinking solely about their own safety rather than protecting everyone's lives. This is especially worrisome when hiring military combat veterans. To create a shift in police culture on this point, a number of departments around the country have begun to build their use of force policies around the sanctity of all human life. This is the concept of tactical disengagement, where the officer slows down the situation, maintains some distance between himself and the subject to reduce the chance of a physical confrontation, and begin communicating with the person to seek a resolution of the situation. This training is often called, believe it or not, verbal judo training, and is becoming quite popular around the country. Police in the United Kingdom, because they don't carry firearms, place a high priority on learning how to resolve incidents without using firearms based on a practical tool called the National Decision Model, which is a system that helps officers to respond effectively to all sorts of dangerous situations. For example, as we've seen recently, an unstable person wielding a knife. They learn how to slow situations down to contain and negotiate. Some leading police chiefs are saying that officers should be held accountable if they failed to de-escalate a situation to prevent it from reaching the point where the use of force was necessary. These chiefs are actually rewarding restraint versus physical action. Commissioners, these issues are not theoretical. Many departments are beginning to implement them around the nation. In 21st century America, we have to rethink and reshape how we police citizens here in Cobb County. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The last speaker for this portion of the program is James Wright. If you would come forward, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is James Wright. I live in the Merchants Walk area. I've lived here since 1983. I'm older than dirt. And one thing I wrote down was the rabbi's invocation this morning, or this evening. One thing he said, the forces of light always prevail over darkness. And I think that's what we're talking about here on this thing. I'm retired after working as a civilian civil engineer for the military for almost 35 years. The most important thing I learned during that time was the primary function of all government is to form agreement. You never see it in any textbooks, but it's there in the background of everything. No one can form lasting agreements without first establishing and maintaining trust. And that's what we're talking about here. In recent years, we've seen a rapid expansion of social media and video recording capabilities that are exposing what is often a different side of interactions between citizens and public safety officers. Those abilities are going to expand exponentially in the coming years. We've only seen a little bit of it so far. I still talk to people with regards to military matters, and we're seeing that in the world today. So it's something like that. Every situation where the video and audio evidence contradicts other testimony is going to rapidly undermine the efforts government has taken to improve trust. So that's out there, that we've got to deal with it. This is a battle government will lose without improving if it doesn't improve its technology. It needs to improve the psychological training of public safety officers, as was mentioned before, and establishing unbiased citizen review boards. Undermining of trust will result from the publication on social media of unfavorable incidents, the distribution of videos that contradict statements and testimony by officials, lawsuits based on such videos, payments to victims in restitution, which we've all seen happening, and recalling of public officials that should have known better. And that's going on right now. The world is changing fast. Making it illegal to video a police interaction won't work. I hope that's not being put out there. Videos can instantly be sent to tamper-proof, password-protected cloud accounts for almost immediate use. Citizens are learning these procedures every day. Evidence of such accounts have already been used to render multi-million-dollar judgments against government entities. Here's what I think we need. A Citizen Review Board, CRB, whose members are selected by local civic and religious groups such that no faction has a monopoly. The choice of the groups to be included should be discussed in several county commission meetings before a decision is made. Let everybody weigh in on that. The decision process and CRB composition should be reviewed openly annually, because there's going to be changes that come from that. The CRB should have access to all, I guess these are controversial too, the CRB should have access to all evidence regarding any incident. The CRB should have subpoena power to call witnesses in a timely manner. That's getting over toward what the district attorney should do. But maybe it's a combination job here on that. The CRB should have the right for a chosen member to attend all grand jury proceedings, cross-examine all witnesses, and present additional evidence at that member's discretion. I'm basing that on what I've heard. I don't know how our grand jury works here, but I've heard that there are grand juries in the country where it's all one-sided and probably all of the evidence is not presented in making a decision. And that undermines trust. The second thing is, an annual review of peace officer training procedures shall be carried out with updates to training designed with the help of psychologists to assure realistic, stressful scenarios are used to fully prepare peace officers for the situations they're likely to encounter. Many of these scenarios can be designed based on videos of controversial incidents throughout the country. All officers shall attend these updated training sessions on an annual basis. That may be a lot.
Thank
I
you,
don't know.
Mr. Wright. That
And maybe you
concludes your
can't do it.
remarks.
I'm
Your
out of
time has expired. Thank you.
Thank you,
I
sir.
have a couple more things. I'll pass it on to you.
Thank you. I'd just like to quickly address the issue. I want to quickly address the issue associated with green space that was brought up, the Parks Bond. In 2008, Cobb County voters passed a referendum approving the issuance of $40 million in bonds to purchase parks and green space. At that time, Board Chairman Sam Owens committed to the taxpayers of Cobb County that the bond would only be issued if it would not result in a millage rate increase. A Parks Bond Citizen Advisory Council put together a list of 29 parcels recommended for consideration for purchase when the bonds were issued. Simultaneously, the national and local economy entered into what is considered now to be a deep recession. Unfortunately, the impact of the recession on Cobb County was such that there was no way to issue the Parks Bond without a subsequent hike in millage rate. Fortunately, during the past several years, the economy has been recovering both nationally and locally. And while not fully recovered to 2009 levels, Cobb County's tax digest is recovering. To that end, I have directed County Manager to request that the staff revisit the Parks Bond circumstance, including available funding, the current availability and cost of parcels that were put on the list in 2009, and whether or not the issuance of the bond is feasible today without raising taxes. That is an update, and we'll be back for more as that progresses. Commissioners, that takes us to tab 3. We have one item tonight that meets our rules, that allows us to add it as an add-on item to our agenda, and it has to do with a legal matter that has a time sensitive issue. And the purpose of the agenda item, which we'd like to include, is tab 3, item 13, is to authorize the release of certain easement rights reserved by Cobb County for drainage, utility and non-roadway purposes, and quit claim deeds from the county for the abandoned rights of ways of Acres Mill Road located in land lots 981, 1011, and 1012 of the 17th District, 2nd Section, Cobb County, Georgia, and the execution of quitclaim deed with from Cobb County to the Development Authority of Cobb County and Acres 75 LLC for such purposes. So that is the purpose of the agenda item, and Commissioners, it will take a supermajority to add this. I'd like to make a motion that we add item 13 to tab 3. Is there a second? Is there any comments to that motion? Call the question, and it carries 5-0, and we appreciate that. So we'll move forward, Commissioners, with a recommendation that we approve the consent agenda as revised and authorize the execution of the necessary documents by the appropriate Kern County personnel. Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments? Call the question. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you. That takes us to tab 4, countywide chair. And as I move into this agenda item, I have a statement I'd like to read as well. Recent incidents involving interaction with the Cobb County Police Department and high-profile incidents nationally have resulted in departments across the country taking a hard look at policies and practices to ensure that similar incidents do not happen in their community. The Cobb County Police Department is a nationally accredited, deeply respected department and is always seeking out and implementing best policing practices. I want to clarify that this next agenda item is not requesting an internal review. It is directing the public safety leadership to inventory existing policies, practices, and procedures, and to recommend to the board what should, if anything, be subject to a review and whom externally should conduct such a review. I want to put on record that this agenda item is not a reflection of my lack of confidence in our police department. In fact, it is a complete exact opposite. I have never wavered in my confidence in our public safety team and have very, very strong confidence in Director Sam Heaton's leadership. To the contrary, I am tired of the public accusations and assertions about our police department. I am disappointed that the chief perpetrator of these accusations is a commissioner who is not being constructive about seeking legitimate solutions to what she asserts is wrong. In August, I encouraged Commissioner Cupid to lead this effort with a memo outlining the constructive steps necessary to make it happen. Unfortunately, she has even gone so far as to set up a grievance committee that has no binding authority whatsoever and is independent of any legitimate process. The only conclusion I can draw from this is that she is seeking to create a media spectacle rather than seeking constructive solutions to the problems she alleges. Commissioner Cupid has repeatedly demanded a response from this board. This is a response. This is leadership. This is doing the right thing by Cobb County and the men and women who risk their lives to protect and serve us every single day. The goal of this agenda item is that public safety professionals take a look at what exists and what may or may not be appropriate areas for external review. Simply put, the findings of this evaluation will prescribe the best path forward for proceeding with a review and a recommendation, external entities best suited to conduct this review. Commissioner Weatherford, as a police and public safety liaison, has been working closely with me to establish this process and to seek constructive solutions, and I look forward to leading this initiative with him. With that, I bring forward the agenda item and request the Board of Commissioners direct the Public Safety Director in consultation with the County Manager to inventory and evaluate policing policies, practices, and ongoing activities, and use these findings to present a recommendation about how to move forward with a thorough review of existing policies and practices related to the recruitment, diversity training, community engagement, the citizen complaint process, and other areas that may be identified by the Public Safety Director as set out in the background of this agenda item. Is there a second?
Second.
Are there comments?
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
And bear with me as I make my comments because in reviewing tonight's agenda item, I did not see my name listed in this tab and was rather open to hearing what the board had to present with respect to this matter, but did not know that this was going to be an attack on the only commissioner that has called for us to even take the type of steps that the chairman has presented. So I'm a little surprised about that, but want to take an opportunity to address this fully. Commissioner Cupid did not cause the media firestorm. Public safety did. Were it not for their actions, we would not be here today. So let's at first try to examine root cause of a subject matter. It's easy to look at things on their face, but critical thinking would have us ask why more than once of why something occurs. Why is Cobb County in the news? It is in the news because Brian Baker had an interaction with Mr. Lawson that was on video. Why was that brought to the media's attention? It was brought to the attention because Brian Baker brought that to the media's attention after consulting with his attorney. Why did Brian Baker and his consultant bring that to the media's attention after talking with each other about the incident? Because they were so disheartened at Cobb County's response to Brian Baker, and they felt that simply moving an officer who was part of this subject activity from one department to another was not adequate. Why did they feel it was not adequate? They felt it was not adequate because if an officer was a problem in one precinct and he has had 2 public complaints, maybe it's not good to move him to another precinct. Well, why is it not good to move him to another precinct? Because if this officer cannot show discretion on the street when he knows he's on video, then what makes you think that he's not going to be brazen to do this again? We can continue to ask why.
And we should.
What we just heard here today from the head of Cobb County is part of the problem. They say problems trickle down from the top. And I will speak here today and say the problem is trickling down to the top. When you have people so brazen and disrespectful, you cannot tell me that doesn't permeate through how people in this county manage their departments. When I saw the disrespectful to response to how I complained about my incident, certainly are they not bolstered when they hear their chairman take these type of views? I am disappointed in Cobb County. This is my first term on Cobb County. I'm here in my 3rd year in office. I looked up to this chairman sitting in the audience where we have constituents here today, thinking that they had our best interest at heart. I am disappointed in this board. This one agenda item today, you think that anybody consulted with leadership is talking to your team, especially if you're the chairman. If anybody has the ability to bring people together, it is you, Chairman Lee. But instead, I have seen you not just on this incident, but on too many. You are the source of contention for many issues on this board.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to call the question.
The question has been called.
I would like to call the question, sir.
I am asking to continue to have this board and to continue to speak.
The question has
Because
been called.
I'm going to be railroaded here.
The question has been called. The question has been called. Call the question. Call the question. Call the question. We're taking a 5-minute recess. Thank you. We are back to the December 17th Board of Commissioners meetings. During our break, I've been advised that Commissioner Cupid is going to be leaving the meeting, so she is absent for this point forward. Before we left, we had a motion and a second for the agenda item number 1 under tab 4. I call the question.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Point of order. According to what we saw in Mrs. Dance's book, calling the question requires a 4/5 vote, and if there's only 4, there has to be an unanimous vote.
To override it, not to call it.
No, that's not what it says.
Hang on a minute, board. What's the comment?
I think all four of us have to agree to call the question.
No, to override it.
We have a motion and we have a second. The chairman calls the question.
Can we ask legal?
Just a minute, I've asked her.
I've done it many times, trust me.
Pardon me?
Unless we've overridden it. Rule says it takes
No.
four to override.
Is it override? No. Well, then I'll make a substitute motion to table this agenda item until our next January meeting. And that takes precedence on any other motion. I just need a second.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Is there a second to the motion? Any other comments? Call the question. Motion fails 1-3. Commissioner Burrow, Weatherford, and Lee in opposition. I refer back, Commissioners, to the initial motion as presented under agenda item 1. Do I need to read that for the record again? So the original motion stands. I'm going to call a question to that motion, and that motion carries.
What is this motion?
The motion, the original motion as presented, 3-1 with Commissioner Ott in opposition. Takes us to tab 5, our second public comment. Counselor. Our first speaker.
There are, I'd like to call order.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's up. Ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Who's the speaker? First speaker, please.
The first speaker is Stephen George. If you come forward, please.
My name is Stephen George, Jr., MPA. I'm a citizen of Cobb County and a resident of District 4. Speaking to the body cameras. All officers in patrol cars should be equipped with tamper-proof video cameras which also record audio. Each patrol car should have both forward and rearward facing cameras. The car instrument panel shall be divided in the forward-facing camera. Each recording module should be identified by serial number only and deposited in a locked storage box like a mailbox at the end of each shift. That data should be kept a minimum of 30 days before erasing so the storage device can be reused again. If an accident is reported that requires review of the data, it shall be retrieved and presented. Unopened in a meeting involving the district attorney and a citizen review board representative. Also, it is my understanding that although there are body cameras for some police officers right now, there is no policy. I don't think that's a good idea. Further, I would suggest that body cameras, even if you need to dip into the general fund, that happen in lieu of grants to outfit the officers with body cameras. I believe that everyone needs oversight. Doctors need oversight, lawyers need oversight, politicians need oversight. Having said that, I will commend Commissioner Cupid because at least what she's doing, she does because she believes in it, she thinks it's the right thing to do, she cares about the community, and she's doing it out in front in public. Unlike some actions from you, Chairman Lee, I believe that Braves deal was done a large part in secret. So I just think you've got a lot of hubris to speak to Commissioner Cupid like that. I think it's unprofessional. And to be honest with you, it was just downright nasty, your tone of voice. And with that, that's really all I have to say, except vote yes for Citizen Review Panel.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please.
The next speaker is Maceo Williams. Please come forward.
Good evening, Board. My name is Maceo Williams, currently a resident in Atlanta, former resident here in Cobb County in Marietta District, maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago, something like that. But I recently resigned from the Atlanta Citizens Review Board as of June 1st of this year. I am also a member of NICOLE, which is a National Association for oversight for law enforcement. Currently serving on the National Board for Membership and Development. Want to render my services to this county in behalf of the nation to create Citizen Police Oversight Agency, which is the correct name for this, okay? Atlanta just has Citizen Review Board because that's what they chose to name themselves, Citizen Review Board. But different states, different names, that sort of thing. But the generic name across the whole United States is Citizen Police Oversight Agency. Okay. Now, I interact with cops from out of the U.S. DOJ, and the fact that they sanction oversight. Another thing is the fact that I'm working on a program right now to teach youth how to interact with public safety, because sometimes our youth get out of hand when they get stopped, you know, that sort of thing. It's only because we haven't at home taught them how to interact with public safety, and that needs to happen, okay? So I'm putting together some things in behalf of that particular agenda. There are 3 different types of models for oversight. One of them, like in Atlanta, is investigative model. In that investigative model, there's also an avenue for various what's the word I'm looking for? Various types of things that's been incorporated, like someone said subpoena rights. Okay, you got to have subpoena rights. Someone came up earlier and said that they were dealing with mediating. That needs to be included in this particular function. There's various aspects that need to be included in on this, okay? And there's the investigative model, there's the monitoring model, then there's the auditoring model. Well, a lot of cities choose auditoring because it's less strenuous and less transparent, but yet still it's doesn't have the citizen at heart. You have to come up with something that has the citizen at heart, because no matter who you are, whether you're a commissioner, whether you are law enforcement, whether you are EMT or fire, when you go home at night, wherever you go home at, you're a citizen now. And you have to deal with the rules that's been presided over your particular area in which you live, okay? So let's get this straight. It's a need there. It's definitely a demand there across the United States. And not only are citizens, male citizens getting shot down, tasered down, that sort of thing. They even going down to females. They even reached out to female teenagers. The bottom line is, if you want to continue doing the things that you're doing, and you feel in your heart that this is the right thing that you're doing, that means that you want to come and serve again. And in order to serve again, you got to get voted in again by somebody called a citizen. So what I'm saying now is, some of us are bulldogs. Some of us are poodles. Some of us are Doberman pinchers. Me, myself, I'm a pit bull. And I most happily would help the citizens, whether you all are the citizens or the citizens at large.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Thank you, madam. Okay?
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Yes'm, yes'm, yes'm.
The next speaker is Dr. Ben Williams. Please come forward.
Good evening. My name is Ben Williams. I reside at 5307 Elsie Lane, Mableton, Georgia, and I serve as president of the Cobb County chapter of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC. Deanne Bonner and I have spent almost a year, along with some other members, residents of the community, at the table with 6 of our 8 law enforcement agencies. And our purpose for coming together was to create a dialogue and to be on a path of analysis and prevention. Regrettably, we could not prevent the murder of Nick Thomas in Smyrna, Georgia. We could not prevent the interaction between one of our Cobb County police officers and Commissioner Cupid. We could not prevent that same officer being a repeat offender, showing the same behavior to Mr. Brian Baker. But be that as it is, and oftentimes we would chat, we were determined to stay the course. But I've got to say to you earnestly tonight, Commissioner Lee, you've probably done more to set that back than anything that's occurred. From my own experience in the literature, attitudes of organizations are set by the head. And I heard clearly from you something that's called fogging. At no time has anyone who spoke tonight or anyone in this audience with whom I have worked have ever attacked the police department. Never. As a matter of fact, some of us have made it a point of saying publicly, we support the police department. What you have refused to hear and separate out and to be honest about is that there's some dirt in the Cobb County Police Department. And that's our concern. That is our concern. Is those officers who, in fact, through their behavior, are not aligned with the philosophy, vision, views of leadership. And tonight, you devolved to the lowest level by communicating through your words that the rogues in the department need not have any fear because you got them covered. That is harmful. My name is Ben Williams, and I'm an alcoholic, is what's said over and over again if folk are willing to change. You've got to acknowledge the fact that you have a problem. Denial continues to cover the problem. And you have said tonight through your actions, Donald Trump must be your hero. It is clear to me that you were speaking to a segment of our community, and that is low down. That is a lack of leadership and the ultimate example of disrespect. Commissioner Lee, we're not going to get to the community that everyone talks about with you in the way with that kind of behavior.
Next speaker, please.
The next speaker is Alicia Newton.
My name is Alicia Newton. I am a resident voter, and this is my first commission meeting. And I must say that I am appalled. And Commissioner Lee, as the leader, you owe Commissioner Cupid an apology. Now, whether or not you are leader enough to give it, know that you owe it. I am concerned. I'm here to support the Citizens Review Board. I am here to support the investigation. And as Dr. Ben said, this is not an indictment of law enforcement. I appreciate the work and the sacrifice of law enforcement. But to not address an officer who has repeatedly shown himself to be absent of any emotional intelligence, conversational intelligence, the basic non-bias attitude that we look for in our officers. There's a problem. And we are here to say that we expect our elected officials to deal with the problem. I have met personally with Captain Adcock in my own precinct, and while he is out in the community, there is no comprehensive plan to create a community policing model. It's non-existent, it's hit or miss. We have an officer, I have a business. If I have a person in my business who doesn't respond to coaching, who doesn't respond to counseling, I don't transfer the problem, I terminate. We're here to ask for leadership. We're not going away, the problem's not going away. We want this investigation to be thorough. We want it to be independent. We need a level of transparency. In Cobb County, you can't even go to the website and make a complaint. There is no form. I'm going to pass around the forms that you go to Atlanta.
Hand it to the clerk, please.
All right. This is what our website looks like. There's no tracking. There's no transparency. I implore you to look at the already vetted solutions that the Department of Justice Task Force has recommended and provided an implementation guide. I'm also going to pass to you a letter to all of you, not only about Officer Lawsons need to be fired, and there need to be a zero tolerance for racial bias. Lisa Cooper did not ask to be followed that night. She did not ask to be scared half to death. She did not ask for your disrespect today. The recommendations is that you fire Officer Lawson. There should be a zero tolerance for racial bias, that we have a comprehensive community policing plan with opportunities for all officers to experience community involvement, not just the day shift, as Jeff Adcock told me happens now. Specifically to get to know and understand others' lived experiences. I urge you to look at a pre-arrest diversion plan, as Atlanta is doing, and support the Citizens Review Board. And I urge you to use the existing training structure to have diversity, inclusion, emotional intelligence training reoccurring in Cobb County Police Department. We're asking you to use what is already out as the Department of Justice Task Force and develop
Thank you, Ms.
milestones
Newton.
to
Your time is
measure
up.
the progress.
Thank you, ma'am.
Robert Korn.
Thank you for giving me a little time here tonight. I am Bob Korn. I've lived in this county for 40 years. I am an ex-Vietnam era veteran. Saw a lot of changes. I've lived in this 4th district since I got out of Vietnam War time. I also grew up during a time during the civil rights movements. And some of the racial things that we see and hear today on TV, some of the things we've heard tonight in here have some racial tones to it at times. But one of the things that came from my time was living that civil rights was freedom. And that's what everybody's been talking tonight about, is freedoms. To be able to freely move in this county and not have to worry about being shot innocently or being pulled over for no articulated probable cause. More importantly, though, is to everybody in here, is there room for improvement in our Cobb County Police Department? The answer is yes. Always is room for improvements. 4 to 6 months ago, I began an endeavor with a group of people to look into Cobb County. Now, let me start out by saying Cobb County Police, I think high of. There are 2 police captains in the 2nd and 5th precinct. They'll tell you that we've been working together. I've been working on neighborhood watch programs. We've actually run some of the bad guys out. We've got a handle on some of the gang problems. We've kind of run them off. So I think highly of the police department. But is there room for improvement? And the answer is yes. In this 4 to 6 month period that I started doing some due diligence, I thought Cobb County was above what I'm seeing on TV. It is not. I'll call your attention to the Murdoch versus Cobb County Police Department case in 2013. I'll give this to the clerk as a reference. In this particular case, it went to federal court for Chief Hauser and our sheriff, whether they could be sued for whether they were in the capacity of negligence. And in that, the federal court ruled that they were held negligible in this and could be sued in this. Now, my question is, how much money does it cost us if we have a police officer that does something wrong and that we don't take and build an accountability and transparency on this? Does it cost more than the budget of what we spend right now to train officers or to hire new officers? The answer is it costs us a lot more. If we take a look at public record, and we look at public record, we will see that we have paid out money in instances. So I'm in support of a civilian review board. I've earned a lot of respect in this county. I've lived here for 40 years. I'm probably older than everybody else up here on the panel right now. My whole thing though is really think about the freedoms of people. We should be able, all of us, to be able to move through Cobb County unimpeded, not worrying about whether I'm black or whether I'm a white guy or whether I'm a brown guy or the next guy out there, whether I'm a man or a woman. I shouldn't have to worry about that. I shouldn't have to worry about any biases at all. I was taught when I was in grade school that the police were where you went. I'm afraid to go there now, and with many times. And I'm a Caucasian. I got a minute here left, or a minute and 20 seconds. One of the things I've noticed tonight is a divisiveness sitting right up here in front of me. That needs to stop. I've been a chairman on a board of directors. I've been a CEO for corporations. And I can tell you right now, to some of you I would fire tonight if you work for me. It's not right to do this. That divisiveness needs to stop. And I'm going to encourage all four commissioners and the chairman, please work together. Lastly, this is to you, Chairman Lee. When you attack a commissioner, I don't care which one it is, you're attacking 25% of the county. When you attack Lisa, you attack me. And I'm not going to tolerate that. I'm going to speak out for that. I'm sorry to call you out like that and school you, but it's something that needs to be said. And I would encourage you, Mr. Lee, to please make amends in this. Get these commissioners all working together. I know that you've done this in the past. Do this now. Go home and find that wisdom. Put yourself together and get this group back in order. The last thing I'll tell you, I got 7 seconds here, is I've said that if you let the genie out of the bottle, it's too hard to put back in. Having grown up in civil rights movements, I've lived through that.
Thank you, Mr.
It's
Core.
hard. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The final speaker is Gary Pelfrey. Gary Pelfrey, please come forward.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I'm Gary Pelfrey. I'm a citizen of the county, have been since 1977. I came here tonight to talk about three things, and I intend to be very brief, but the first one is the most important one. I don't get in front of cameras like this and talking to important people very often, and I'm inclined to lose my balance, and I feel like I have done that on several occasions before this board. I don't think I've said anything that I didn't believe, but I have certainly said some things in a fashion that I should not have said, and I apologize for that, and I am going to do my best not to repeat that here tonight. I say that, I was prepared to say that beforehand, but I think it's particularly appropriate tonight because there are at least three of us here who have said some things that we said in a hurry, and at least two of us recognize that, and that's not productive. The other 2 points I would make, first, Dr. Ben, I thought laid out a very positive notion for how to get forward, and I think, quite frankly, the way things have progressed tonight, you have contributed greatly to Dr. Ben's vision of how we're going to do this. I would like to simply offer my other 2 points. The first is 5 things which I asked to be put on the screen so that the folks watching this at home on Channel 23 can DVR and read and think about at their leisure. These are 5 things that wherever you wind up with a citizen review board need to be considered. The first and obvious one is we've got to take iPhones away from police officers on duty. What they do now is when they want to communicate back and forth in ways that the public does not have access to, is they use their iPhones. I mean, the TENS code was created to talk briefly on the radio, but that was before everybody had an iPhone in their pocket. So the first thing is when somebody comes on duty and checks his equipment out and goes out, he takes his private iPhone and puts it in his locker. And all communications while he is in his official capacity are recorded and available for review. The second point up here, I hear talk about CALEA and how we're part of the CALEA standards. And in fact, the webpage for the Cobb Police takes pride in the fact they meet CALEA standards. Well, CALEA standard 52.1.1 says there will be a written directive on how to deal with complaints. And there is no such thing in Cobb County. So bingo, that's a check mark, and that's something that needs to be done. Recognition and empowerment of a citizen oversight committee. That's what we're here to talk about, and you have said you want one. There seems to be some disagreement about how that group should come into being, but that's what we're here about, and we'll decide. The next one might throw you a little bit. There are bullets on this, and I'm not able to see where we are. I'm suggesting that you establish an annual budget of $100,000 to allow this civilian group to take root and get going. And I have a little comparison I'll say in a minute. The other issue is there needs to be immediate access of all evidentiary material that is documentable, that is not going to be changed. One day after we killed an unarmed black man, there was available photographs showing the trajectory of these bullets, showing that they went into the vehicle from behind. There's all that there, and that wasn't released until 2.5 months later. The final thing I want to say, and I believe I have a minute left, is this is a copy of a bulletin from the New York Times yesterday that deals with Ferguson, Missouri. So we can all take a breath and realize that we don't have anything to do with Ferguson, Missouri, except for the fact that they killed their unarmed black man 227 days before we killed our unarmed black man. So looking at this, you can use this as a pattern for what's likely to happen to us in the next 227 days. They've about reached an agreement with the feds. If you read through the parts, may I move this around? Well, I can't do that and talk. But I will leave it and ask the board to take a look at it. What it basically says is they're guessing that it's going to cost $375,000 for the first year to establish a federal mediator. They're talking about a federal suit, which they're saying they're probably going to have to raise taxes. So I have no time left, and I will stop, but I suggest you look at this and see if you want that to be us in the New York Times in 227 days. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I just want to take a moment to reread the agenda item that was approved just a few minutes ago. And it was, the recommendation is as such: the Board of Commissioners direct the Public Safety Director, in consultation with the County Manager, to inventory and evaluate policing policies, practices, and ongoing activities, and use these findings to present a recommendation about how to move forward with a thorough review of the existing policies and practices related to recruitment, diversity training, community engagement, the citizen complaint process, and other areas that may be identified by the Public Safety Director as set out in this background. The agenda item we approved tonight was setting direction for review of policies and procedures on a number of topics related to our police department and public safety department. So I just wanted to bring that forward as what, if you look in the agenda item, the initial findings will be presented to the Board of Commissioners work session on January 26th with a goal of moving forward with the recommendation form review process as directed by the board on February 9th. Board of Commissioners regular meeting with final recommendation of review to be presented to the Board of Commissioners on May 24th, 2016. So that takes us to tab 6, appointments. There's 2 items under the appointments for board approval. The first one being brought forward by the chairman is the Board of Commissioners approve the appointment of Mr. George to the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority for a 4-year period that expires July 31st, 2019. This appointment will be replaced by Robin Meyer, who we thank for her service, and to reappoint Darrell Watkins for a 4-year term to expire on December 31st, 2019, and Mr. Ketzel for a 4-year term to expire on July 31, 2019. Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
There's a second. Any comments? Yes. Mr. Ott.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as I mentioned today during the agenda meeting, I have a concern as to how this whole process works and think that the 4 county positions should be delineated as to what areas or expertise they should represent, and so I cannot support these appointments at this time.
Okay. Commissioner Cupid?
Yes, thank you. Forgive me because I don't have my phone up here. I think it's out there with some of my notes in it. I have expressed my concern to the board with respect to agenda item number 1, which addresses appointments to the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority. The authority was created, I believe, back in 2012 or prior to my being on the board, and the majority of those appointments are still present on the board. The majority of those appointments have primary interest or residence in the Mableton area or may have businesses there and do work there. Right now, I'm very concerned because the primary work of this authority pertains to the Six Flags Hostel area. And the only representation that's from there is from Mr. Dale Ketzel, who's the president there. But I have found that with the work that's going on that deals with the families that are in the Six Flags area, that those who are present on the board have proved themselves to be significantly insensitive to or oblivious to the concerns and dynamics of the Six Flags Hostel area. To address that, I presented, which will be presented after this agenda item, which is agenda item number 2, to appoint Herschel Tolson, who has a daycare in the area and deals with many of the families in that area, and who's very active in coming to meetings and addressing the board. I was talking to additional people to sit on the board, but I was under the impression from my communication with the clerk's office that the deadline had already passed for presenting an agenda item. And so I was surprised to see the additional people being offered here today. I would just ask for us to hold off on voting on this today because, for one, there was no communication with the South Cobb Commissioner with respect to these items for appointing people to the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority, which I think is significantly odd. I also think it's pretty insensitive after my correspondence with this board and a public meeting and talking about changing these board members for the concerns not to be addressed and making sure that there are people on this board who are reflective of the entire geographic scope of the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority. On multiple occasions, myself, staff, an area nonprofit, and I believe others have actually talked to the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority and asked for, in their decision-making, for them to be sensitive to the area residents of the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority. Every suggestion that we've provided, both financial and non-financial, was turned down. This is resulting in many residents who are going to be who are under the burden of being displaced during the holiday season, which I believe with some sensitivity in being a member of the community or active in the community or sensitive to the community and the circumstances of that community would have resulted in different decision-making. I don't believe that, as was shown here earlier today, that that I have the ability to overcome some of the what I have found to be, I won't even call it momentum, but there seems to be an air to make decisions without full inclusion and to do things without, I mean, even just to do things without listening or being sensitive to the issues on the table. And I believe that approving this agenda item is going to continue that tonight. My ask for the board is for us to, again, delay the agenda item and for it to be heard in January, so there's consideration of what I think is a very strong suggestion that Commissioner Ott put on the table, which is for the four board positions to be considered and to be assessed as a post position, where we at least look at the qualifications of each person that's representing the BOC appointments. So that's my suggestion.
Thank you, Commissioner Weatherford.
Thank you. Having some experience with redevelopment authorities, having come from the city of Ackworth for 12 years, where you had a downtown development authority and various other authorities, I'm pretty familiar with the way they do. While I can agree with some things, such as Commissioner Cupid, Commissioner Ott saying that certain segments or certain subject matter experts can be selected, I think that might be a good idea. We did that in the city, that so many had to be residents or business owners, et cetera, and I don't see that in this particular case. But having said that, I have reviewed all these, and I think these are excellent candidates, and therefore would support them. I think that we're confusing the issues somewhat in that the residents that Commissioner Cupid is speaking of are in a apartment community that they are relocating and eventually will be tearing down and marketing for redevelopment area, which is sorely needed. A lot of those residents are on month-to-month leases, which tells me they're not planning on being permanent residents in Cobb County anyway. The Ackworth Housing Authority and the Marriott Housing Authority have merged for many years, and the Marriott Housing Authority has run many of these relocations in the past, including several while I was on the board there, and I've known them to understand the laws and the rules and regulations of Section 8, DCA, and all the other different organizations. I have utmost faith in them, and I think that they're doing what is within the right way to do it. So, having said that, I wanted to tell you that those particular three, I'm in support of.
Any other comments? Call the question. Motion carries 3-2 with Commissioner Cupid and Commissioner Ott in opposition. Item number 2 is an item being brought forward by Commissioner Cupid. Commissioner?
Yes, I'm moving for Herschel Tosin to become a member of the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority. He is a business owner in this area and also has worked as a contract manager for the government in Illinois, and I think is going to make a fine addition to the board. So with that, I move to appoint Herschel Tosin to the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority.
Is there a second? There's a second by Commissioner Ott. Comment, Mr. Ott?
Yes, as I previously stated, it is my firm belief that the 4 commission positions need to be delineated as to exactly what role they are to serve and where they're to come from. So as with the first agenda, even though this is recommended by the district commissioner, I believe that this needs to be held for the same reasons.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Weatherford?
I believe Commissioner Cupid and I have read some of her correspondence, although we haven't discussed it personally, that she has several other possible candidates that she would like to recommend. I think that since we have one left, I think it would be best to table this until January, when we can discuss all of her particular options and discuss those and try to fill this last position with the proper people and do that as a board, and I think that might be a better way to do that.
We have a motion on the table to approve the recommendation and a second. Are there any other comments?
I'd like to make a substitute motion to table this to January, Commissioner Cupid.
We have a substitute motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second by Commissioner Burrow. We'll call the question as to the substitute motion taking precedent over the initial.
I have some communication on that.
Yes,
when there's a
ma'am.
motion, is it not an opportunity to have communication before there's a call to vote?
Absolutely. My apologies. Please move forward.
I just want to share that we have commissioners here who are agreeing on their appointments for the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority, but are not agreeing on the South Cobb's commissioner's appointment to the authority and cannot use their own reasoning for their own action in the prior agenda item. Okay. Okay.
Commissioner Burrow?
When the service districts and the bonds first started, Doug Stoner and Ed Richardson took it upon themselves to come and talk to me, and I'm assuming most of the other commissioners, and have updated me and talked to me from day one on the service districts, on the bond information, and on Magnolia Crossing and everything going on in the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority. When the county staff, Dana Johnson and his team, looked at the whole county 2 or 3 years ago, came up with 38 sites throughout the county that were in disrepair, need of redevelopment. I had 17 in District 3 of the 38. 13 of those were on Canton Road. I have no CID on Canton Road. I have no redevelopment authority. So I looked at the business owners and the people in that community, representative of Canton Road corridor area, and formed a committee myself, about 8 people from that community, to help us market these sites and bring them back to life and revitalize the area. They have since formed their own nonprofit. They have the nonprofit status now, so they're pretty much an independent board, which in my mind the Redevelopment Authority South Cobb is independent of us as well. The first 3 that we just voted on, the first agenda item, my understanding is that there was one appointment that was a recommendation from Commissioner Cupid, and the other 2 were recommended from the authority. And we have known about that and went through in emails, and like I said, 2 of the members from the Development Authority board have spoken to me on many occasions to update us and keep us abreast of what was going on. So those are my reasons for approving the first 3.
I just want, excuse me, if I may.
Commissioner.
Yes, I just want you to be as mindful when you do things on Canton Road, for me to come in and for me to assert that I have more knowledge about who should be serving on that than you. I think that you would have some question with respect to that, Commissioner Burrell.
But these were presented.
I'm
Wait a
continuing to
minute.
speak, and I did not interrupt you, Commissioner Burrell. There were other there were other persons who were going to be suggested for this particular position, and as I shared prior, it was shared that there was a deadline, and other persons who were in communications with respect to serving on the board were not proffered by that deadline. So I was very surprised to see these additional requests make it to the agenda after the deadline, which is another issue. Again, I don't understand how this board relates to the board that you have in Canton Road as far as it being independent from the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority. When you look at the governing documents for the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority, it is not completely independent from this board. Where that occurred in your district, Commissioner Burrell, this board has appointment, that was, the people that were appointed to that were done under your discretion. For this particular board, there are 4 BOC appointments, and it is a collaborative effort with this board and the legislature. So I just don't see similarity with respect to that point. This is beyond arguing because, again, the wishes of the board were made known, and I'm just making it public so that the public is very much aware that when we continue to see decisions made that run counter to the concerns of the Six Flags area, you will know that it was done by 3 commissioners that do not live or have a vested stake in the South Cobb area.
Any other comments? Call the question. We're voting on the table, we're voting on the substitute motion to table the issue till January. No, we didn't vote on it. And that passes 4-1. I believe that concludes that matter, Counselor. Thank you. It takes us to agenda item number 3, which is to reappoint, recommendation of the Board of Commissioners reappoint Captain Sean King to the Airport Advisory Board for a term, 2-year term to expire on December 17th, 2017, and this is an announcement, and no approval is necessary for that announcement. That takes us to tab 7, a Commissioner's Public Address. I'd like to remind the Commissioners their time limit is limited to 5 minutes. We'll begin with Commissioner Cupid.
I will defer to my original placement to be at the end of the
There is no
Commissioner's
original
comment.
placement.
We
I
have
called
stuff-
on the Commissioners in order from left to right this
No, that's
particular
not how
evening.
it was done when we started
Commissioner-
this term. And
I'm
this
gonna
is not
call
the-
on you
this is-
once.
This is not the first time that I've deferred in the proper order.
There is no proper order. It's how I call on you. It's how I call on the members of the board. So, Commissioner Cupid, do you have
I
any
will, I will
comments?
defer to the original order.
What's the original order?
When we started off with Commissioner Ott and then we went down this way, and I was the last commissioner to provide
several-
my comments prior to you.
Commissioner, for several months now, we've been mixing it up.
And that's why-
It's based on my desire to call in a particular
I
commissioner.
just think in light of all that's occurred
Okay,
today,
well, I'm
that
calling you,
that should
Commissioner
defer to
Cupid. Do
that.
you have any comments
Yes,
for
yes, I
Commissioner
do.
Public Address?
Yes, I do, which I prefer to defer, and that's okay. If I'm not shared with you, I'll be happy to share it after today's meeting.
Commissioner Burrow.
Before I make my regular announcements, I'd like to make two that are announcements for District Commissioner. I'd first like to appoint Deborah Mahan to the Transit System Advisory Board for DOT. She will be replacing John Anderson effective January 1st. And I'd like to thank John Anderson from KSU for his service on that board. And I'd also like to appoint Arnie DePetro to the Neighborhood Safety Commission, and he will be replacing Vicki Plunkett, whose term has expired. And I'd like to thank Vicki for her many, many years of service on the Neighborhood Safety Commission. You heard earlier in the presentation that Lance Corporal Skip Wells, who was tragically killed in July, Sprayberry grad, will be receiving the Purple Heart. So please keep his family that was with us earlier tonight in your prayers. I'd also like to congratulate Annette Clark, who has been with the county for 25 years and with Keep Cobb Beautiful for, I believe, 19 of those years. She will be retiring the end of this year. She has done an excellent job, always gone above and beyond, coordinating volunteers and working at all of the events for Keep Cobb Beautiful, and her commitment is outstanding. She also, yesterday at the Keep Georgia Beautiful Awards Luncheon, received the Public Employee Woman of the Year. So congratulations, Annette. We wish you well in your retirement, and we're going to miss you, so don't be a stranger. I'd also like to congratulate my assistant, Inger Eberhardt. She graduated Tuesday night from KSU with a master's in integrated global communications. She's done a great job for me the past 5 years, and I couldn't do what I do without Inger. So thank you and congratulations to Inger. Also, through the end of December, the Cobb County Animal Shelter has a special adoption rate, $60 for dogs and cats, and they have all their shots. They've been spayed or neutered and microchipped. So if you're looking for a great Christmas present for the kids, please adopt from the Cobb County Animal Shelter. And one last thing, I would like to say thank you to the staff, all the county boards that volunteer and serve for us, for all your hard work this past year. Thank you to the citizens for your engagement in our community and your input. And during this holiday season, please take some time to enjoy your family and friends, and I wish you all a blessed Christmas and a happy and healthy New Year.
Thank you. Commissioner Ott?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have one, and for the folks in the district, it's a big announcement. I know the board, all the members on the board, and a lot of the staff know my assistant of 2.5 years, Thea Powell, is retiring at the end of the year. She has been a tremendous asset, both to the office and to the people in the district. A lot of things that have been taken care of and run smoothly were a result of the hard efforts that she put forward over the last 2.5 years. And so I want to wish her well in her retirement, spending time with her 2 grandchildren and practicing her new master gardener skills.
Thank you. Commissioner Cupid?
Okay. This is not the original order, but I realize there are some matters that's beyond my personal preference. I am calling for there to be light shown on an incident involving Officer Lawson on September 29th and September 30th, and that they pertain to a Mr. Malcolm Clarence and to a Omar Little. And I think that needs to be thoroughly investigated by anybody who's willing to help thoroughly investigate that matter and to help bring that matter to light. And I certainly hope that was in county government's investigation of that officer, which we were expecting a report due of earlier this week. I also want to reiterate some of the suggestions that were shared with respect to the, well, let me just back up and just clarify some things. That earlier this year, the chairman did request to the media and to me at the same time that Commissioner Cupid provide information with respect to a citizen review board. This is after all of the commissioners had commented to the media, inclusive of the chairman, that there was no need for one. So I did not take this suggestion with much seriousness, that I think it was done for more public fodder than it was for any serious consideration of that matter. I will back up and share that I've had, unfortunately, experiences on this board where I've looked for assistance from other commissioners in addressing other government-related matters, and I did not receive their support on it, and they were of much less controversy. So imagine me spinning my wheels to be a part of something which they've already shared their opinion on. A grievance board, similar to what Commissioner Burrell said. She said she started an independent board in District 2 to help address development. But I did not hear that. I did not hear that critiqued or mocked or ridiculed or looked down upon by this board. I have decided to create a grievance board to address matters within the District 4 citizens, but yet some reason I should not follow that same course of action that Commissioner Burrell took to be responsive to needs within her district. I think that's just only a tip of the iceberg of what I believe has been a double standard for me being on this board. I hate how things turned out today, but I want the citizens of District 4 to know that I have been serving diligently as your commissioner under very challenging circumstances and doing my best to work with the present board to do the wonderful things that we have done in the district. There are a number of projects that are going on. There are businesses moving in, and there's a lot more good things to come. But this has not been done with the greatest ease on this board. But I'm praying that as more people from the district and throughout the county continue to observe the dynamics of this board, that they will help to bring some changes to the way that we operate so that we can have a healthy operating Cobb County. Thank you.
Commissioner Weatherford.
Thank you. Just a couple of comments and with some good news. I just wanted to point out that this is finishing up my first year on the board, and having spent 12 years in public service with the city of Ackworth, very familiar with boards and their dynamics and the politics and working together. And I've always prided myself in being able to work together with everyone and everyone. We have not always agreed up here, any of us, and that's the way it's supposed to work. That's why you have 5 people. I have supported Commissioner Cupid in many things. I've disagreed with her on many things. She and I share a hall, and our offices touch, yet in a whole year, she's never been in my office. So I've reached out, tried, but it's difficult to do that when the communications is via email, and I have to set up an appointment to see her. So I take some disagreement with her comments in that I am willing to work with anybody. I will not agree with you all the time, but I'm willing to listen. So That's always been my philosophy and always continue to be my philosophy. On a happy note, the Allatoona High School football team won the state championship, so I wanted to do that, and hopefully in January we're going to have them come in and have them honored there. And yesterday I had the honor to participate in the, forget how many annual it is, but the Cops and Kid event at the Target on Austell Road in Austell, where the Cobb FOP and over 100 police officers representing every police agency in the county took 135 kids shopping. It was a great time interacting, and the spirit of the season and the reason for season. I think that was a great event, which doesn't get as much publicity as it should. Their officers are doing some good things out there as well. Also last week I was the privilege to speak at a key ceremony for Captain Cameron West, who is a wounded Marine that was severely injured in Afghanistan in 2011. Lost a hand, leg, and an eye. And Homes for Heroes presented him with the key to a mortgage-free house, and he's chosen to make Cobb County his home. So things like that are great. So if you get a chance, look up Cameron West and the things that he did, and to me, he's my hero. He was presented with a couple of gifts. One was a honorary homeowner association to Brookstone, and another to Camden Point. And unfortunately, he made an offhand comment that he would go skinny dipping with one leg, so they withdrew one of them. Just a joke. It was fine though. But he's pretty hilarious, considering what he's going through, and he's a true hero. So appreciate that. And I want to again wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll conclude the evening, hopefully, with this statement. As the speakers were speaking through the second public comment, I was reflecting on some of the comments made, and I want to say this. I apologize. The tone I used was not right. I have put on record repeatedly that I will not tolerate any discrimination, and there's no place for it in Cobb County, and I've stated that before publicly. The agenda item, as I read, is intended to conduct a review of all the areas that have been discussed tonight. So with that, I apologize. I also am disappointed in the pace of the investigation of the incidents of the officer and look for a swift conclusion of that investigation. It is also my intent always to live every day with the purpose to do the right thing. My intent is to put God first, my family second, and my job third. And I pray every day for wisdom, guidance, and leadership. Just like all of us are people. We try to do the best we can with where we're at. And this board is trying to do the best they can with where we're at. And yes, we are going to have disagreements and we're going to have discussion. But this is the best county in the nation for all the people, the diversity, the businesses, and the prospects for the future. I'll continue to work with the commissioners on those areas I agree, and I'll continue to bring forward ideas in those areas where I disagree. I wish you all a Merry Christmas, a blessed and safe Happy New Year. We are adjourned.